I'm Eleanor Rose, and this is my dog Jasper. About 6 months ago, I changed careers and started working at one of our local animal shelters. Working there has made me realize a lot of different things. I live in Texas, San Antonio to be specific, and one of the most common things you'll hear when you think of Texas is the "Don't Mess with Texas" slogan. Something a lot of people don't know is that was actually an anti-litter campaign so that people wouldn't be throwing their trash on our beautiful highways. But I kind of want to take a second, glance at that, and do a different kind of anti-litter campaign. So I'm going to be talking about today why you should spay and neuter your pets. This time of year, a lot of people have received animals either as gifts or just they're getting a new member of their family for some reason, which is awesome. But once the holidays cheer kind of wears off and you have that new family member with you, there's a lot of decisions to make. Don't mind Leo, he's a little bit of a diva. He's my other dog that's here with me. But there's a lot of decisions to make about your new family member, and one of those is whether to spay or neuter. I've also encountered a lot of people who say things about, why they think they shouldn't spay or neuter, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there. So I just wanted to clear some things out and do what I can to let people, especially here in San Antonio, Texas, know why it's so important that you spay and neuter your pets. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was just pet overpopulation. Nationally, 2.7 million healthy, adoptable, wonderful companion animals are euthanized every year in the United States. And that's just a travesty. These animals don't ask to end up in shelters. They don't ask to be euthanized. It's simply due to space. It's not because they're aggressive. It's not because they're sick. I think in total there are between 3 and 4 million euthanized, and some of those are for those other reasons, but 2.7 million healthy adoptable animals every single year. And that's kind of mind-boggling for people to think about, like, where do all these animals come from? So here's kind of a little exercise to show you why spaying and neutering has such a profound impact. So let's take cats. Cats have an average of 1 to 2 litters per year, and they can get pregnant between 4 and 6 months old, which is a lot younger than a lot of people think, but they reach sexual maturity much faster than humans do. Their litters average between 5 and 7 kittens. So if we do all the fancy math, I'm not a math person, my husband calculated this for me, but one female cat can produce over 180 cats in her lifetime. That's crazy, especially for an outdoor cat. They live between 3, maybe 7 years at the most outside, and that 180 cats, that's a lot. Dogs, similar story. They have usually only 1 litter a year, sometimes 2. It depends on the breed and a couple of other things. They can get pregnant starting as young as 6 months old and sometimes younger. These are all just general numbers. Their litters average between 6 and 10 puppies. So if you do all the fancy math, again, my husband did this for me, that means that in 6 years, one female dog and her offspring can have 67,000 dogs. That's where our overpopulation problem comes from. 1, 2, 3 people saying that they don't need to spay or neuter their animal, or 1 or 2 people letting their animals out because they didn't want to take care of them anymore and they were not spayed or neutered. That's where our overpopulation is coming from. That's why we have 2.7 million healthy adoptable animals in shelters every year being euthanized, because there's too many of them. So if that's not enough to convince you, I have some other facts that you should know about spaying and neutering. So number 1, the cost. If you think that going to a vet and paying somewhere between, let's say, $200 and maybe at the very highest I've ever heard, like $500 to spay or neuter your animal is too much money, let's think about how much it's going to cost if you have, say, a female dog that has 5 puppies. You have to have at least 3 shots for every puppy for their DHPP, Bordetella, rabies, which are usually required by law. At least rabies is required, I know here for us in San Antonio. And DHPP is the parvo shot, and the Bordetella is kennel cough, and those are super highly recommended. So you're gonna need at least 3 those 3 shots, and the parvo shot is a series of 3. So that's, at least 4 or 5 shots per puppy. And they're, usually, I know at my facility, we charge people about $15 per shot. So there's that cost. You need dewormer. You absolutely need to deworm your dogs, especially here in Texas. We have a lot of problems with that, with our stray population having worms. And even dogs that aren't strays, even if you take really good care of the mom, they can still have worms. So you need to deworm them at 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and 8 weeks. So, that's multiple vet visits you're talking about. And then if you're, a really conscientious pet parent and you're doing everything right, you're going to microchip them. And if you're really awesome, you'd spay them. But if you're against spaying and neutering, you wouldn't do that. But if you think about it, you're going to end up spending, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a litter of 5 puppies just because you didn't want to spend maybe $500 to spay or neuter your dog. Also, because pet overpopulation is such a huge problem, I know here in San Antonio there's probably at least 20 different programs where you can get either free or low-cost spay and neuter ranging between $30 and $60. Sometimes you have to wait maybe a few weeks, maybe a month, but it's totally worth it. So the cost of spay neuter, lots of people are eligible for free, lots of people are eligible for low cost. That's not really an excuse. Something else I've heard people say is, oh, well, my dog's going to be fat and lazy, and they're not going to be a good guard dog, or they're not going to bark when people come to the house anymore, and that's what I want them for. That's totally not true. The behavior of your dog can change after spaying or neutering, but it usually only changes in positive ways. It's not going to affect the overall personality of your pet. Jasper here is very mischievous, and he was before we got him neutered, and he still is now. He still likes to get into the garbage or eat my socks. That's just part of his personality. However, because he's neutered, he's not as likely to wander away from home because he doesn't have that testosterone reaching through his body telling him that he needs to reproduce like right now. So he doesn't dig out of our fence. He doesn't wander off. Also, he doesn't hump things. He didn't really before he got neutered, but he has never shown that, that behavior. And I do know dogs that have shown the humping behavior before getting neutered, and then afterwards, they're not nearly as likely to do it because they don't have that hormone. Lastly, let's talk about the health and lifespan of your pet. Most people, we think of our pets as our fur babies, and we want the best for them. If you spay or neuter your animals, you're going to improve their health and actually prolong their life. So female dogs that are spayed have a 0% risk of getting something called pyometra. That's where their uterus gets filled with pus and it's all infected, and it can be fatal even if you treat them. And the treatment for pyometra is the spay surgery, taking out the uterus and any other infected materials along with antibiotics and usually a hospital stay. So that's something you just completely eliminate. For male dogs, you eliminate the risk of testicular cancer because they don't have their testicles anymore. There are also other cancers that have been linked to not spaying and neutering, such as mammary tumors and a few other ones. And then something else that can happen to unneutered male dogs is called a perianal hernia. So basically what happens is the muscles that hold the intestines together in their little rear ends when they're trying to go to the bathroom kind of rip. And about 95% of cases are in unneutered male dogs. So it's something that's really horribly painful. We have a dog at the shelter I work at currently who had this. His owner surrendered him because he had this, and it was so painful for him to go to the restroom, and he had to endure 3 different surgeries and have this mesh implanted to help everything get repaired. And there's no reason for that poor animal to go through that because his owner could have just neutered him when he was a puppy. Another thing that I hear people say a lot is they want to wait. They want to wait until their dog is at least 1 year of age or until at least they've gone through one heat cycle if they're a female. There's really no benefit to waiting. You can spay or neuter puppies and kittens as young as 8 weeks old. As long as they weigh about 2 pounds, they're perfectly safe to go under anesthesia. Our shelter neuters puppies and kittens at 8 weeks of age and 2 pounds, and they've always done fine. There is a slightly increased risk of complications if you wait. The longer you wait to get your animal spayed. So if they're an older animal, of course, surgery, there's always some risk with that. So it's better to just do it when they're young. They're not going to remember it. And it's just easier. You don't have to carry a limp dog back out to your car. If you wait till they're, fully grown, you just can have your little puppy in the front seat. So those are all the reasons that spaying and neutering is super important. And I hope that you are able to listen to this message and hear some of the things I've had to say. If you have any comments or questions, please post them below in the comment section. I would love to hear what people think. And I hope that you and your furry family members have a happy and safe 2019.